Okay, so we're going to look at PAN 1.5. That's square roots, perfect squares, putting them on number lines. So the first thing I'm going to go over is perfect squares. This is a long list of them. If you don't know how to find them, it's because you need to multiply integers, like 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, and so on. Make sure you know that those are called perfect squares, and whenever you see them, it makes dealing with square roots a lot easier. Uh, you can keep going on that list, but I'm going to stop there. This is just a couple notes for square roots that are not perfect squares. There's some stuff you can do. You're going to need a calculator that's going to help you estimate what they are. The one we have in class will help you simplify. So you type in a square root, and then you press enter, and then you press the button above enter, and then it will give you a decimal, which is a little bit easier to read. If you're using the Desmos online calculator, it will only give you decimals, and that's pretty helpful for this lesson. Okay, there's a couple more things you're going to need the calculator for. You might want to practice it real quick just to make sure you can type all these in. So when you type in the square root of 5, you should get 2.23 something. Square root of 19, you get 4.36, and it keeps going. Negative square root of 28, you get negative 5.29. And then the square root of negative 28, your calculator will say domain error. That's mainly because of where that negative sign is right there. If you're trying to guess what the number should be, square root of 5 is a little bit bigger than square root of 4. Square root of 4 is 2, so square root of 5 should be a little bit more. Square root of 19 is bigger than square root of 16, so it should be a little bit more, which looks good. Negative square root of 28, square root of 28 is 5, so a little bit more negative than that is negative 5 point something. So just make sure you watch out with the negative signs. If it's inside the square root, it's bad. If it's outside, it's okay. So put a number line on here real quick. And I'm going to put some square roots on a number line. These are going to be all positive ones, just to start off a little bit easier. And then I'll do negatives after this. None of these are perfect squares, just so you know. You'll have to get the decimals for it, so you know where they belong on a number line. This one, I'm going to go from 0 up to 10. Should be enough room. So you want to type all the square roots into the calculator because you'd rather compare them as decimals. I mean, you could compare them as square roots, but it's kind of hard to put them on a number line like that. So turn those all into decimals. You get 1.41, 3.16, 5.92, 4.8. 1.41 is in between 1 and 2. 3.16 is a little bit after 3. 5.92 is almost at 6. 4.8 is a little bit past 4, but not all the way to 5. So I'm going to label those above them so you know where they're all coming from. And that's all you got to do for that. Here's a number line just using negatives because there's going to be times where you got to put negative square roots on a number line. It's kind of backwards from how the positive one just worked, but it's still just as easy. So I'm going to start at negative 10 and just work my way over. Should get about to 1 or 2. There we go. So let's get some negative square roots. Just going to write a couple. Doesn't really matter what they are. Okay. We'll start with these. So you're going to type them into the calculator again, and you get decimals for them. If you're using the Desmos calculator, that it'll give you a decimal right away. You don't want to write all the decimals, just keep like 2 numbers so you can compare them. And then we're going to put those onto the number line. Start with the left and go to the right. So we'll start by putting negative square root of 80. That's negative 8.9. That's almost to negative 9, but it's not there yet. Negative 5.4 is in between negative 5 and 6. Negative 4.7, or negative 4.4 is in between 4 and 5. Negative 2.2 is in between negative 2 and negative 3. Negative 3.7 is in between negative 3 and negative 4, closer to negative 4. So I'm going to go ahead and label those. Pay attention to where I'm putting them. It's not so random. Like if it's 3.7, make sure it's a little bit past halfway, stuff like that. And that's all you got to do for those. Last thing I'm going to do is least to greatest, just so you know how to put numbers in order. If you are given a list of numbers and some of them are square roots, some of them are fractions, whatever. So I'll start off, maybe just do like 6 numbers or something. That's probably the biggest ordering problem you'd ever have to do right now. So I'll do a little more. Okay, so you don't need to put these on a number line to put them in order. You just need to get the decimals for them. I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm just going to get the decimals, put it underneath. This is 3.3 repeating. This one is negative 0.3 repeating. This one, it's a little bit more than 4, 4.12. That's negative 0.5. This one's a little bit more than negative 5. There you go, negative 0.48. And then you got negative 5.2 and 4. So putting those in order from least to greatest, you're going to want to start with the smallest numbers. The smallest numbers in this list are going to be anything that's negative. And then from the negatives, you want to find the big ones first. Those are going to be the smallest. So those are both negative 5. So you look at the second number, negative 5.4 is the biggest negative. And then you keep working your way from there towards 0. So negative 5.2. After that, you got negative 0.5 or negative 0.3. So you're probably going to go with negative 0.5 and then put negative 0.3. And then we go on to the positives. The smallest one is the 3.3 repeating, not 4. So we're going to start with the 3.3. Even though it's a big decimal, it's still smaller than 4. And then we'll put 4. And then we'll go on to 4.12. And that's how you'd put all those numbers in order. It starts off with a big mess. That looks a little bit easier. Let me know if you got any questions. That's about all there is to do.